Okay. So welcome everyone. I'm Julie Zuckerman. We're actually going to start with a moment of silence. And then I'll give a little introduction. So let's just start now. Okay, so for those of you who are new here, I'm Julie Zuckerman. Literary Modiin is a monthly author series on Zoom and occasionally in person. It connects readers and writers of Jewish fiction, memoir, and poetry. We've been holding events for the last 4.5 years, and many of the authors who appeared on the series are here with us tonight or today, depending on what time zone you're in. And I believe it was Iddo Gefen, who's one of our readers tonight, who mentioned that Literary Modiin is a forum to build bridges through literature between those of us in Israel and those outside. So that's what I'm hoping to do tonight. We'll hear several short readings from Israeli writers. And after that, if there's time, we'll offer a prayer or two and say a few words about how to help. And then we'll open it up to people in the audience who'd like to ask a question or make a brief comment. And the last thing before we get started is that I know we're all in pain right now, both Israelis and non-Israelis. And if there's enough interest, I'm happy to hold more of these sessions to allow other voices to be heard, including writers from outside of Israel. So now I'm going to get started and introduce our first speaker. I was going to add in her bio that she's an award-winning writer, but then I realized that all of these people that you're going to hear from are award-winning, so just keep that in mind. Ilana Blumberg teaches literature at Bar Ilan, is currently volunteering for Haim, helping families with a member on the front. So let me replace the spotlight with Ilana. Go ahead, Ilana.
Thank you, Julie, for bringing us together. I'm going to just read a few excerpts from Jerusalem Diary, which I wrote a week ago. October 8th, Sunday, my 53rd birthday. Sipora, age 13, says to me, "Don't worry, Ima. I think your 54th birthday will be a good one." There's no news on Aner Shapira or Hirsch Goldberg Poland, the two boys from our community who disappeared at the rave in the South. Hirsch's parents have been friends of mine for decades since we went to high school in Chicago together. Aner's sister is the close friend of Priya, my 19-year-old, but there's no news, just more and more reports of missing people, accompanied by photos of faces and phone numbers. The phone numbers mostly belong to siblings. Young themselves, they're more connected to social media than their parents. They're searching for anyone who saw their missing loved ones anytime since early Saturday morning, when it seems that every last cell phone in the world lost contact. We decide to have an early dinner with the family of my oldest friend in Jerusalem, minus her 2 kids in the army, and my visiting friend, Diane. I've known them both since I was 10. Diane goes shopping for some things. Later, I see she's stocked my fridge for me surreptitiously. She makes tagine and rice. We open a bottle of wine. There's a homemade card for my birthday. Priya's friend made her ragalach to take back to the base, but she turns them into my cake. When we walk home in the dark, the streets are empty. Tomorrow, Priya will go back to the army. Before she goes to sleep, she packs up all her things. She showers, climbs into bed with clean sheets, clean hair, clean body. I sit beside her in the dark. I say, "I'm just going to sit here for a few minutes." After some time and a little talk about what awaits her at the base, the question as to what soldiers training for the Education Corps can possibly do in this national disaster, she says quietly, "I'm scared that Hirsch and Aner are dead." And suddenly she's a child again, speaking in the simplest syntax. "I'm scared that." I say, "I know, me too." I stroke her arm. I tell her she needs to take care of herself, that we're here, we love her, she can call anytime. I kiss her goodnight. Monday. In the morning, I take Priya to the train. She doesn't want to eat. The streets are absolutely empty. I can drive right up to the corner of the central train station. At any other time, what I'm doing would be attended with crazy honking from all directions. I stop the car and wait for her to get out without any cars approaching, only another soldier on the street corner who watches while I take a photo of her back as she crosses the huge street. Large backpack, army boots. The girl she grew up with in Ann Arbor has written her 10 years later to send love from college. I'm skipping now. Wednesday. In the afternoon, I go for a walk with my good friend across the street. Her son is waiting for a tank on the Gaza border. His tank was blown up on Saturday. Before it was blown up, his commander was injured in it. The driver brought him to safety, then drove it as if it was a car back to the area of the party and saved more people before it was destroyed. In normal times, my friend's son likes to sing Hasidic melodies with his friends on Shabbat late into the night, so loud we can hear them across the street, and his younger sister complains and comes over to us to hang out with Zipporah for refuge. So his mom and I walk their dog. We drop the compost at the community garden. We tell each other what we know. She tells me that Priya's friend's brother, Aner, was badly wounded. She knows this because her sister-in-law is best friends with Aner's mother, Shira, and her sister-in-law can't stop crying. So now I'm wondering about what this means about our friend Hirsch. I keep sending one-line texts to his parents, one a day. They send back heart emojis and a message to keep praying. I recall that his mother, Rachel, prayed for our mutual friend, Sheila, when Sheila had breast cancer, every single day invoking her Hebrew name. Rachel and I would talk about it each Shabbat when small groups met to pray during the pandemic. I remember when she took Sheila off the list of people she prayed for because Sheila was out of danger. These are the ways you learn someone's Jewish name, when someone is in danger, when someone needs your prayers. Thursday. In the morning, I make more phone calls. Oh, I'm volunteering and I'm describing that. It's a relief to wake up and know what I need to do. I feel well enough to joke with my colleague, Yael. During the pandemic, we would ask each other end of semester teaching evaluation questions. How well has this pandemic met your hopes and expectations? I text her, if this war were meeting my expectations better, the gym would be open and there would be bread at the supermarket. She jokes back, there's an exchange of stickers, but by noon, the day has broken apart. Priya texts one line, the kid from my machlaka is dead. Machlaka is an army training group of 35. He had been missing. Priya had sat at the kitchen table on Sunday on a Zoom with her commander, and I'd heard one shaky voice during the question period ask, but what about X? Has anyone heard from him? No one can reach him. I'd heard the commander say back, strong, confident, yes, we know, we're on it, we're in touch with his family, we'll update you as we know. Now he's dead. I asked Priya what his name was, Idan Baruch. I write back to Priya, can you talk? No, she can't. I write back, Priya, nothing about this is normal. We're in a nightmare in which I know you have to just go on, but something like this is not normal. Remember that. Later, she calls me, her voice terribly shaky. He was in Kibbutz Be'eri. He was asthmatic. The terrorists set the house on fire, and he was asthmatic, so he tried to get outside to breathe, and they killed him. They killed his grandmother. His little brother is missing. His parents and one brother survived. Oh, Priya, Ima, he couldn't breathe. I know, I'm so sorry. It is an awful story. And then she has to go. She's sure that nothing she's doing matters, that her guarding of the base is utterly superfluous, made up to give them a job. When we get off the phone, I text Yael because I can't be alone with the kid in my machlaka is dead. Now Yael says, you listen, it's not normal. Priya's mother needs to remember that too. I go for a walk. Every friend I can think of to walk with in my neighborhood has a kid at the front. I write Priya back later in the day with a new thought. When she was young and couldn't sleep, I would sit next to her on the side of her bed, and I'd say to her, sleep will come. My friend Devora had passed that gem on to me, and I gave it straight to Priya. Sleep will come, and it always did, eventually. When she was a senior in high school, her literature teacher told me that she'd written about that as something handed down in the family. I saw a post yesterday in which a soldier of 2 months returned safe, thank God, to her mother after holding out in a shelter against terrorists with 4 other soldiers for 15 hours. When her mother asked her how she survived, she said, "Do you remember when I was little and had nightmares? You used to tell me to repeat, Yesh li koach v'simcha balev. I have strength and happiness inside." So that's what I did. I repeated it silently so the terrorists wouldn't hear me, and I imagined light pushing toward the door, pushing the terrorists away. Thinking of that extraordinary post in which a mother girded her daughter years before her daughter was in danger with the strength to survive, I write to Priya, maybe start a breathing practice in which you say, breathe in, me, breathe out, we, breathe in alone, breathe out together. Do it 10 times slowly before you try to go to sleep. Later that endless day, I join a WhatsApp group in which volunteers want to make sure that children evacuated from the south to hotels and hostels in Jerusalem still get birthday celebrations. As an aside, someone has written, "Hey, there's a woman here celebrating her 40th birthday. Is there anyone who can help bring some joy?" When I see the hotel is 10 minutes from my house, I say, happy to. The woman calls me to make sure I'm legit because maybe I'm Hamas with an Israeli's phone. We all worry this now with people we don't know. After a few sentences, she gives me the name. I pick up containers of ice cream. I get home. When Shai asks me what I'm doing as I curl ribbon around shopping bag handles, I tell him. He looks at me like I'm nuts. I call a young friend, 8 years old, and ask her to please make a homemade card. She's something of an artist and tells me it will take longer than the 10 minutes I give her, so I give her 20 minutes. When I arrive at the hotel opposite the massive Jerusalem Theater, there are 100 empty parking places. The streets are still empty. Pninit meets me in the lobby. She's known the birthday celebrant, Karen, for about 6 hours. She says, "We will tiptoe to Karen's door, you at the head of the line, and we will surprise her singing happy birthday." I may be the very least likely birthday parade leader out there. We're a gaggle of 3 mothers, 4 or 5 children, a stroller. Quietly, we approach the door and knock, and when Karen opens it, Pninit bursts out in boisterous song, Hayom Yom Huledet. We all sing. Karen and I hug. We all hug. She blesses me. She blesses my family. We all bless each other. Thank you.
Thanks, Ilana. Thanks very much. Okay, I'm now going to introduce our next author. Iddo Gefen is the author of the book Jerusalem Beach and a PhD student in cognition at Columbia University. Oh, I have to ask you to unmute. Hold on, sorry.
Hi, thank you, Julie, and thank you, everyone. I'd like to read a short thing I wrote last week after my best friend was killed. On the plane all the way from New York to Sagi's funeral, I'm thinking about Luciano, about this name, which appeared one day on the blackboard in our high school classroom. Sagi was the first to notice this name, and he immediately said, "I have no idea who Luciano is, but I'm sure he has a mustache. A person named Luciano can't walk around the world without a mustache." We sat next to each other in that class, and instead of listening to the teacher, we began to imagine Luciano's fictional biography. We imagined him as a charming and clumsy character with a Latin accent, one who always tries to impress everyone and only rarely succeeds. We continued to talk about Luciano, and over the years, we found ourselves challenging each other with all kinds of challenges that Luciano would do just to prove his courage. That was how Sagi found himself entering a green recycling container just to prove he can do it. And I broke into the school library in the middle of the night with a book that hadn't been returned on time, along with an anonymous letter of apology. Sagi was my best friend. We have known each other since the age of 11, elementary school, middle school, high school, youth organizations, a year of volunteering before the army, trips to 4 different continents. He was the best person I knew. In my last book, Mrs. Lilienblum's Cloud Factory, Luciano's character insisted of entering the book. This time as General Luciano Rodriguez Ancelotti III, a Peruvian pirate who engages in email scams in his spare time. I sent a draft of the book to Sagi, who instead of just being excited, immediately suggested some changes that made the book much better. He was that annoying, and he was that talented. When I finished writing the book, I decided to dedicate the book to Luciana. I decided to dedicate the book to Sagi. We said we'd keep it an inside joke, or maybe would expose it when we were both 80. We had no reason to rush. Sagi, a captain in the reserves and a commander in the Lutar unit, fought bravely in the difficult battles in Beri. He led his soldiers in battle and fell while protecting families, children, and elderly residents of the kibbutz and the state of Israel. His fall in battle expressed the way he lived his life, a life dedicated to goodness and to help others, a life that was full of love to his partner Omer, who he was supposed to marry last Friday, to his family, to his friends, and to his country. I've been wondering a lot in the past few days, what is the value of literature in times like these? I'm not sure I have an answer, but there is one thing that literature is successfully doing, and that is expanding reality, giving room for details. In the recent days, I've been reading about Sagi in the media. Everybody mentions he was a brave soldier, and he was, it's true, but Sagi was also many other things. He was a funny person, full of imagination and creativity, who loved life, who loved drinking tea every morning, who loved to get into a green recycling container just to prove he can. Newspaper articles can't describe all of this, but literature can. I would like to say that in my next book, there'll be a character of Sagi, but such a character won't be believable. A person with no flaws, a person who was all good, who dedicated his life to others, who sacrificed his life for others. Sagi will continue to be with me in everything I do in life and every decision, and the goodness he spread in the world will continue to shine. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much. Mishol is one of Israel's leading contemporary poets, author of several poetry collections, including Look There and Less Like a Dove in English, winner of the Zbigniew Herbert International Literary Award. And I'm going to add Joanna's spotlight as well. Just find you, Joanna. And Joanna Chen is a writer and literary translator whose work was a finalist in the Jewish Book Awards and won the 2023 Paper Brigade Award for Israeli Fiction. Do you want me to share the screen with the poem?
Yeah. Okay. In these difficult times, Joanna and I have chosen some words of comfort. 3 poems, all are from my last book, Gefen. I'm still touched by the words I just heard. עכשיו במיוט. עכשיו כשהמוות זוחל סביב, ואני מקולפת עד לטרנינג הכי מהוע שלי, עד לעיסת הוופלות שאחריה משחת שיניים דו-פסית מתפרצת אליי מהשפופרת. עכשיו במיוט, שבו אפשר לשמוע את החיטה צומחת, את אגוזי הפקן נלחצים אל קליפתם, ועלה לא נראה שגם אצלי שוכב דומם לארץ. אני מעדיפה להידחס לתוך הלמד של האהבה, אפילו לתוך מיליות, או לשתי הדמעות הנוטפות של השווה. עכשיו כשפריחת העדרים, הפסריח האדיש לכל זה, אני עושה מה שרילקה אומר, נותנת ליופי ולאימה לקרות לי, בלי לחשוב שזה סופי.
Now on mute. Now, when death crawls around and I'm peeled down to my most faded sweatpants, to the pulp of cookie crumbs and two-striped toothpaste that squirts out of the tube. Now on mute, when it's possible to hear the wheat growing, the pecans pushing out of their shells, and an invisible leaf that for me too lies dormant on the ground. I prefer to compress into the L of love, or a preposition, or the two dripping tears of a parenthesis. Now, when citrus blossoms are the indifferent aroma track to all this, I do as Rilke did. I let beauty and terror happen to me without thinking it's final.
Joanna. The next poem is better, מוטב. מוטב עכשיו להיות חמנית, לפתל את הצוואר לכיוון האור, ואחרי הפריחה לא לסוב שוב לאחור אל השקיעות. מוטב להרבות צהוב, שיעמיק את הכחול לזולי של הרקיע, ובמקום לריב עם עץ, מוטב כמוהו להעמיק שורשים, כי גם בלי ורטיגו, אדמה אצלי שמיים.
Better. It is better now to be a sunflower, to twist my neck toward the light, and after blossoming, not to look back at the sun as it sets. It is better to bolster a yellow that deepens the lazuli blue of the heavens, and instead of arguing with a tree, it is better to be like her, to deepen roots, because irrespective of vertigo, earth for me is sky.
בקתה בקצה יער. לא כל תרדמה נופלת, לא כל ערב יורד, ולא כל זקנה קופצת. יש המנמנמים כאפונים בתרמיליהם הירוקים, או שרועים שלווים על ענני מרשמלו. לא כל מלאך הוא נורא, לא כל תפוח מורעל, ולא כל מבט נעוץ. יש האוספים אותנו מהעיבוד אליו הלכנו, ומאירים לנו בקתה בקצה יער.
Cabin at the forest edge. Not every sleep falls, not every evening descends, and not every old age creeps up. Some doze like peas in their green pods, or sprawl with ease on marshmallow clouds. Not every angel terrifies, not every apple poisons, and not every look pierces. Some gather us up from the way we lost and illuminate a cabin at the forest edge. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna.
Tודה, Agi.
Thank you both very much. Haim Watzman is an author, playwright, and translator living in Jerusalem. Unmute.
It's a tough act to follow. I've asked my friend and collaborator Annabelle, actress and storyteller, to read a story that I wrote last week, and that just got posted on the Jewish Book Council website.
Cold water. The iciness of the water shocks me. The pool shut down after Hamas unleashed its horror in the south. Today, more than a week later, it has reopened. The water presumably hadn't been heated in the interim. I expect my body to get used to it after a length. But no. The fact is, The usual temperature is far too warm for my taste. It makes my scalp itch under my swim cap and my body sweat under my one-piece Speedo. But today, it's way too cold. On top of that, my body needs to readjust to moving in the water, even though the break has not been a long one. It takes a few laps before my limbs recall how they're supposed to move. Despite my determination to work out at home and take long walks, I was so glued to the television that I only did that once. Exercise requires concentration, a mental capacity that vanished on October the 7th, and the water is still too cold. After 300 meters, I flip and switch to backstroke and see Ruth Mutsafi gesticulating to me at the shallow end. My body tenses. She's one of that clutch of grandmothers who prefer the early afternoon hours as I do. I'm not saying they don't have a right to use the pool, but to call what they do swimming would be generous to the point of utter falsehood. I mean, I respect them for getting out and moving their bodies, but I try to keep my distance. Ruth is the kind of person who votes for Benny Gantz's National Unity Parliamentary faction, centre-right, but hell if I'm going to give her 2/3 of the lane. I move over to the left side, but make sure my arms touch the midpoint at each rotation. When I return, she's standing in the water. She waves at me, but I have no interest in conversation. Even if I felt a desperate need to talk to someone, as I have so often since the massacre, I wouldn't choose her. I tried to get into my zone, to get out of the news cycle and into the euphoria and silence of my hour here. The problem is, I have to remain conscious to dodge Ruth's arms, which she flails in tandem, angled at 60 degrees from her shoulders as she floats on her back. This morning, I went to a Shiva minyan. The son of an acquaintance had been killed by a grenade thrown by a Hamas murderer as he protected with his body a woman from his kibbutz. She was taken back to Gaza as a hostage. What can you say to a mother who's lost a son that way? What can you do for the rest of the day? For the rest of your life? Whatever it is, it shouldn't involve dodging Ruth. The inevitable collision occurs just as I head into my 2nd kilometre. She has stopped to rest at the end of the lane, and just as I'm coming into my flip turn, she reaches out to me in my half of the lane. My legs give her extended arm a wallop, not on purpose. Well, maybe a little on purpose. I stop and stand in the water, glaring at her. Sorry, I say, but stay on your side. Then after thinking about it, please. My fault, sort of intentional. I need a word with you. No one has ever had a single word with Ruth. We stare at each other for a moment, and then she asks the inane question that everyone is asking everyone else this week because there's nothing else to say. How are you? Managing. And you? She hesitates, as if there's something she wants to say but can't. I'm desperate to swim, but I wait. Finally, she speaks. The water is freezing. Yes, I agree, especially when you're not moving. And I turn and resume. When I come back, she's still standing there, but she keeps to her side as I arrive at the wall. Even though what I really want, what I desperately need, is to keep going. I stop. What's going to happen? She asks me. I catch my breath. I don't know. I just know that I really need to swim. We have to destroy them. Hamas. Yes, but I'm not sure if that's possible. First, we should get the hostages back. I look down to the end of the lane. I really need to swim. I set off again. I do 2 laps, then a third. But she continues to stand there. She must be turning into an icicle. So at the end of the 3rd lap, I stop again. Maybe you should get out and warm up, I suggest. Yes. She grabs my hand. 4 grandsons down south, 2 in reserves, 2 in regular service, and 2 granddaughters too. I'm so worried I can't swim. I don't want to succumb to this. Yes, I have a son there too, and my husband's been called up. She turns angry, but not at me. We need to destroy them. No mercy. They had no mercy on us. When I think of those families that they slaughtered, children in front of parents, parents in front of children, I feel tears welling up. Yes, but aren't their children dying too? I hope our generals know what they're doing. You're a smart lady, she says. You always seem to have an answer. Not now. If they invade, I hope they don't. How many will I lose? She shakes my arm with strength that catches me off guard. How many will I lose? I turn away. Ruth, I really need to swim. It's what I have to do to keep my head above water. It's so cold. It's really cold. And I resume. When I return after the next lap, she's not there anymore, but I stop anyway. I look around and see her from the back as she makes her way slowly towards the locker room. I feel that I must jump out and comfort her. I feel that I must swim. I return to the water, which feels even colder now.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Haim and Annabelle. Okay. Yotam Tolub is a disability activist and 3-time novelist who lives in Mevo Beitar, and he's been serving in his reserve unit as a casualty notification officer. So.
I am the generation that began to forget. I was born after the Yom Kippur War. The Holocaust was a tragedy on the calendar. Once a year, we swore to never forget and never forgive, and then we carried on. I'm the generation that tried to put a civil agenda on the table. Enough with Iran's nuclear threats, enough with the giant budgets for the Ministry of Defense at the expense of welfare and society. I'm the generation that thought the world was our global village. In the winter, skiing vacation in Georgia. In the summer, Greece or Romania with the kids. Occasionally a trip to see Springsteen in London. Am kechol ha'amim, a regular nation. I'm the generation that wanted to move on from the ideologies we grew up on. Not everybody wants to destroy us. Not every criticism is anti-Semitism. Not every conflict should be settled with a 5-kilo hammer. Not unyielding pride in everything our country does, in its ministers and advisors, not unity at all costs. On the contrary, it's a test of our maturity as a society to know how to deal with our inner demons, to level harsh criticism to the point of alienation. I'm the generation that thought I can spend my 80 years on this planet without a heavy national trauma. Not that we didn't have the Second Lebanon War, Intifada, the first and the second, terrorist attacks, the assassination of Rabin, the disengagement from Gaza, and this last year in Israel. Despite this, many of us succeeded in avoiding any direct wounds. I succeeded. Scratches here and there, even to the chassis, but not like this, not this deep. I'm the generation that can't find itself in the ideas in which we grew up, but we haven't developed new ideas that can explain our terrifying present. I'm the generation that knows how Herzl too well. I have a friend there, but not this way. It's been days and days, funeral after funeral. I'm the generation that for over a week has been busy doing WhatsApp groups and Facebook posts, Excel files and Google Forms, mobilizing food transport and extra mobile phone chargers and psychological support for the people living in the Gaza envelope, the reservists, and the women and parents at home, connecting supply and demand, doing anything to avoid looking directly at the horror. There's no place in the soul for such horror. Bereshit. I read again and again the opening verses. I return to the simple words, the familiar. In the beginning, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Va'aretz hayta tohu vavohu. And the earth, our ground, the basis, the anchor, the earth was chaos. 3,000 years later, the prophet Yirmiyahu would describe the destruction of the first temple in chapter 4 in these chilling words. ראיתי את הארץ והנה תוהו ובוהו, ואל השמיים ואין אורם. I look at the earth, it is unformed and void. At the skies and their light is gone. No light, not only on the earth, also in heavens. 2,500 years later, here and now, and this description is still apt. I've seen the earth and there is chaos, Tohu vavohu. We are the generation that is meeting this tohu. That's what I've come to understand thus far. We've met the chaos. From all of this, I don't know how a new creation, a new state, a new person, a new Jew will emerge. I read the parasha and cling to what is there. In the beginning, there was tohu, but out of it, the world emerged. Apparently, it is possible that from chaos, we will emerge. May God heal all of our brokenness in our bodies and in our hearts.
Thank you so much, Yotam. Move spotlight. Let's see. I guess I'll replace myself, but what we're going to do now, Yotam was our last reader, is offer a few prayers for Tzahal, for the captives, and for the state of Israel. If you are not the praying type, and I understand many are not, feel free to just turn off the volume for a few minutes. And but I'm going to share my screen, and Agi is going to read the Mishberachs, and feel free to turn back on the volume in about, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. And feel free to jot something of your own or read along with her.
אני לא רואה את ההתחלה של המילים.
Mishberach Avotenu, לא רואה?
אני לא רואה, התמונות שלנו מסתירות חצי מהטקסט.
אוקיי.
כן, sorry.
Okay.
אפשר להזיז את התמונות מלמעלה, אפשר להזיז.
אוקיי, בסדר, הבנתי.
כן.
מי שברך לצה"ל, מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, בעומדם על משמר ארצנו וערי אלוהינו, מגבול הלבנון ועד מדבר מצרים, ומן הים הגדול עד לבוא הערבה, ביבשה, באוויר ובים. ייתן אדוני את אויבינו הקמים עלינו ניגפים לפניהם. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה, ומכל נגע ומחלה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם. ידביר שונאינו תחתיהם, ויעטרם בכתר ישועה ובעטרת ניצחון, ויקוים בהם הכתוב, כי אדוני אלוהיכם ההולך עמכם להילחם לכם עם אויביכם, להושיע אתכם, ונאמר אמן.
Amen. This one was written, I got it from a source where there were only a few names to say. And I guess, but obviously we can't say all 200 plus names.
מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, יוסף, משה ואהרון, דוד ושלמה, הוא יברך וישמור וינצור את השבויים עם כל השמות שלהם, בתוך שאר אחינו בית ישראל הנתונים בצרה ובשביה. בעבור שהקהל מתפלל בעבורם, הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא רחמים עליהם, ויוציאם מחושך וצל מוות, ומסורותיהם ינתק, וממצוקותיהם יושיעם, ויושיבם מהרה לחיק משפחותיהם. יודו לאדוני חסדו ולנפלאותיו לבני אדם, ויקוים בהם מקרא שכתוב, ופדויי אדוני ישובון, ובאו ציון ברינה ושמחה, עולם על ראשם, ששון ושמחה, ישיגו ונסו יגון ואנחה, ונאמר אמן.
Amen. And I don't have the transliteration, sorry.
תפילה לשלום מדינת ישראל. אבינו שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו, ברך את מדינת ישראל, ראשית צמיחת גאולתנו, הגן עליה בעברת חסדך, ופרוס עליה סוכת שלומך, ושלח אורך ועמיתך לראשיה, שריה ויועציה, ותקנם בעצה טובה מלפניך. חזק את ידי מגיני ארץ קודשנו, והנחילם אלוהינו ישועה, ועטרת ניצחון תעטרם, ונתת שלום בארץ, ושמחת עולם ליושביה. ואת אחינו כל בית ישראל, פקודנה בכל ארצות פזוריהם, ותוליכם מהרה קוממיות לציון עירך, ולירושלים משכן שמך, ככתוב בתורת משה עבדך, אם יהיה נידחיך בקצה השמיים, משם יקבצך אדוני אלוהיך, ומשם ייקחך. והביאך אדוני אלוהיך אל ארץ, אשר ירשו אבותיך, וירשת והיטיבך, והרבך מאבותיך. ויחד לבבנו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, לשמור את כל דברי תורתך, ושלח לנו מהרה בן דוד משיח צדקך, לפדות מחכי קץ ישועתך. הופע בהדר גאון עוזך על כל יושבי תבל ארצך, ויאמר כל אשר נשמת חיים באפו, אדוני אלוהי ישראל מלך.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I have a few links here that I'm going to send out tomorrow in the email. These are some general links. This one, the first one, helping the communities of the South rebuild. Iran, which is a mental health hotline that Haim's wife volunteers for. The Nayot Project, which is in memory of Haim's son Nayot, which is right now helping kids with learning difficulties who aren't in school, but in general, they help kids with learning disabilities. Kibbutz near Oz, Yotam, I don't know if you want to say something about this for a second. Did I?
I went to my neighbors on Shabbat, and their parents are from Nir Oz, and a woman, 75 years old, she's a literature teacher, and I'm asking her, like, how does your days look like? And she says, I'm writing the eulogies for all the people from Nir Oz. She's writing the eulogies of each one to be read. And as we talked, we said, we need to think about how to write the stories of the people. So we're starting a project with them on helping the people write the stories. Nir Oz's small kibbutz, a quarter of it of the people were murdered or kidnapped.
I write it for Barry.
Mm.
Today was the funeral of Yona Cohen and Ohad Cohen and his little girl, Mila Cohen.
I also have the links here for United Hatzalah and Magen David Adom and Friends of the IDF. Again, I'll send all these links tomorrow. Also, I'm going to send some links of some other readings and perspectives. In particular, I want to mention Sherry Mandel's piece in Times of Israel, for those who didn't see it, about building resilience during this war. I don't think she's on the line now, but she was a speaker at Literary Modiin, and I think she's written a book about this after she lost her son, Kobe, to a terrorist attack 22 years ago. So I'll send these links out tomorrow as well. And that is the end of our official program. I want to invite anyone who's here to ask a question, make a comment. I'll try to take myself off of the spotlight, so then I could see all of you. If you want to say something, you can either write in the chat or raise your hand. Hopefully I'll see it. Let's see anybody raising their hand. Yes, Judy, okay, go ahead.
I'd like to relate to something that Iddo Gefen said when he asks the question, what literature does, or what writing can do during these days. And from my own personal experience, I've realized that what I write and I share with family abroad, it helps me enormously, just the writing itself. And to my sort of delight and surprise, and it helps the people who read it abroad, because our families who are in the States or in Canada or wherever, they're very worried about us and they care about us, and it helps them enormously to hear from us. So I mean, I'm sure, like Ilana's diary, that I don't know, if you've shared it with friends abroad, but I'm sure that, and also poems, certainly, it really helps the Jews who are having a very difficult time, especially now in the United States with all the rise in anti-Semitism. So the writing, it doesn't only expand reality, it really can build bridges and help people.
I had that experience last week, Judy, when I kind of made a random comment on a Substack that I'm subscribed to, the Mid-Story magazine for women in their middle of their lives, and they asked how are you doing? How are you thinking? It's not a Jewish publication, and people had responded like, oh, the news is heavy this week, and so then I wrote a little, paragraph, writing from Israel, and this is what's going on here. And then they asked me to write something, to submit an essay. And at first I was like, I don't know if I can write anything, but I just, and then speaking to Ilana, we're talking about that's important for us to just kind of get down what's been happening now as it's happening. And I don't know if it helped me, but I was shocked at how many people shared it all over Facebook on Thursday when it went live. So that's one of the links I'll send out. Thing. But yeah, anyone else want to say something? Have a comment? Raise your hand and keep it raised, because there's too many of you here. Keep raising your hand if you want to say something, or one of the authors wants to say anything. Mary, are you raising your hand? No. Shake. Linda, my mother-in-law. Linda, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say that we shared your writing, Julie, for our whole congregation
Oh.
last night. And some of the people had already read it on Friday that I saw yesterday morning at school. And they found it very helpful to better acquaint themselves and to be able to acquaint themselves personally because of you and your family, Josh, and the history here in our community. Found it very helpful and we're very grateful for it. Thank you.
Thanks. Meryl, is your hand raised? Okay. Trying to unmute you. Hold on. Wait, you're not unmuted.
Yeah, I was writing something in the chat, but I'll just say it. Thank you so much, Julie, for bringing us together for this amazing group, for your piece, and these writers who share these pieces from their hearts. And you know, we feel we are with you. I mean, there's an enormous amount. I think the United States is really all together on this, and we just want to know that you're with us. We're with you, and we want to help in any way possible. And Julie, thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you, Meryl, for all you do. Ilana.
I just wanted to say that time is very, very strange right now in Israel, that the days are exceedingly long, you know, and what you can feel in the morning and what you can feel in the evening and what everything that's held in between morning and evening. It's very, very difficult to remember, even, I would say, a day later. And part of the reason that I started writing was because I thought I will never be able to reconstruct this. And so I just encourage those of you who are living out these days and in which so much seems to unfold over the span of 24 hours, just get something down on paper. There's an archival value to it, you know, even if you don't feel that you are, you know, any kind of professional writer, it's unimportant. It seems to me that we need to record these moments and to try to capture them before they kind of blur in our memories. Also, thank you to Julie for gathering us. I really appreciate it.
And I want to say actually special thank you to Joanna and Ilana and Haim, who helped me kind of think through this whole event tonight. Anyone else have a hand raised that I'm missing, or I want to say something? Pessy.
I'd also like to add my thanks to everybody we all seem to be recording our feelings in different ways, either through a story like Haim's and poems. And thank you very much for including my name in the Durand Review, where I have 2 poems, war poems published, and one of them called Call Up, and the other has somehow or other gone all over, to many different communities. And a friend of mine in America, we've been friends since we were age of 5, and I won't tell you how many years that is, because I am an octogenarian now. It's being read by her rabbi. She said she's a wonderful woman in her community in New York. So the things that are strengthening us, we're strengthening the communities in some way without even perhaps knowing what we do. But I do find it a little difficult. The days are long, as you say, but still it's a little difficult. And a funny thing happened to me today, that the plumbing in my main small bathroom went, and I've got a very small other bathroom, and I've been ejected from my main bathroom, and I've had to move things from my main bathroom into a little bathroom. And I thought to myself, making this a fuss about, people are being displaced all over. And, you know, it's a question of identifying in the deepest heart at the most strange moments with what somehow people are going through in Israel today. So, Julie, thank you, and thank you, everybody. I didn't know I was going to speak. I was sure I wouldn't say a word. And here I've gone babbling on, so forgive me for too much.
Thank you, Pessy. And be sure when I send out those links tomorrow to check out Pessy's poems in the Duranda Review. Does anyone have anything else they want to add? Oh yeah, I meant to do this poll. Hold on. Maybe a second to answer the poll. Okay.
I did wonder if Haim's story has been published. If we can.
Yeah, he was published on the Jewish Book Council website today, as well as on his Substack. And tomorrow, when I send out the links, there's also a possibility to subscribe to his Substack where he sends out the stories.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to end the poll. Looks pretty clear. A lot of people would like another evening of this, for those who mentioned. And I'm just gonna, I guess, close, unless anyone has something else they want to say. Two final thoughts. One, okay. Two little things that are helping me, and it's kind of, I'm kind of taking a page out of a Corona playbook, because, you know, in some ways there's some similarities. People aren't out on the streets, and we're all, you know, sticking close to home. And for those of us who are writers on the call, and don't find the words or can't, you know, I'm just giving myself like a very teeny tiny goal, right? Like if it's just revise 100 words today, or, you know, something really small, because I know those of us who are writers like to try to write every day. And the other thing is to start my mornings by reading something beautiful. During COVID, I was reading Meir Shalev's The Wild Garden, which Joanna translated. My Wild Garden is so beautifully, and I was like reading it very slowly, because it gave me a lot of cheshek, I don't know how to say that, you know, like strength. And it happens that I'm reading another very beautiful book right now, so I'm trying to read a little bit every morning, and to see, just to look around at what's happening in the communities and all these unbelievable volunteer efforts that are going on, as something quite amazing, as well as just to look at the little things. Like my daughter was home yesterday and had all of her friends over, and like, I don't know, like 10, they ate us out of, we weren't expecting them to come, and they were just so amazing to see them sitting outside, because it could have very easily been them at that music festival, her and her friends. And I was just like happy that they were here, be able to comfort each other, even though they've all lost people they know. So let me see if there's any other. Oh, and Nadia, thank you for mentioning this. Nadia Jacobson was on the call. She's been running free Turn Up and Write Together sessions. Do you want to put the link? Do you want to send me the link and I'll send it out to everyone? Okay. People can work on their own projects, but you can see others who are with you on the Zoom. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, everyone. Stay strong, stay safe. Sending love from Israel, and see you next time.